Hello, in this tutorial we're going to look at scripting in Unity, and basically scripts are what we really need to make a game interactive. So right now in this tutorial series we're up to the stage where we've created the terrain, we've worked with cameras, we've worked with textures and water, we've worked with lighting, and we've started working a little bit with character controllers, but now we're going to get into scripting, and that's what we really need to do to be able to control characters, control events in the game, and different actions, and it's what makes or allows your players to actually interact with the game. So we'll be scripting in Unity using the C# language. You can script in Unity using C#, you can use JavaScript, and you can also use Boo, which is a bit like Python, but Boo is not really supported as much now. So the main two languages are C# and JavaScript. But if you go onto the Unity website and any other tutorials that you might look at, you'll notice that C# is the main language that is now being documented. So I'd recommend using C#, but it's up to you what you want to use. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at the basic script that is, or what components exist in every script that you'll have in Unity. So every script in Unity has a few required components that you need to include to make the game run. And we're going to look at those components first. So to create a script, and firstly I'll just explain what I've got here. I've just got a basic terrain here with some water, there's a directional light, there's a skybox there, and I have a main camera set up on this area here where there aren't as many trees. Now I've got some other stuff here as well from some other scenes, like different textures and that, but basically what you should have is some folders here. So you should have a scenes folder where your scenes are contained. You might have a folder for your textures, and then you should have a folder for scripts. So if you don't have a folder for scripts, then what you need to do is just right click down here in the assets panel, click on create and then folder, and make a folder called scripts. I'm going to go into that scripts folder. I'm going to right click in there and click on create and then C# script. Okay, and I'm going to give this script a name. So it's important when you're naming the scripts to give them meaningful names. Don't have any spaces in the names, and just simple naming. Camel case is good. So I'm just going to call this one my script without any spaces there. Okay, but you'll have different scripts that you'll be using. They'll have different names. So one of them might be to control a weapon. One of them might be to control movement of an object in a scene. One of them might be for scoring. One might be for the health of a character. So you'll have a whole range of scripts in your project. So I've got this one here called my script. Now in the inspector, it will show the basic script there. That's the actual code in the script. But to edit it, we can double click on it and it will open it in our script editor, which in this case is MonoDevelop. So hopefully when you installed Unity, you also tick the box to install MonoDevelop. And just to keep things simple, MonoDevelop is the script editor that comes with the Unity package. So this is the script here. Okay, so when you edit your script here and then save it, it will also update in Unity. Okay, so basically the three components to this code are the using section, which is here on lines 1 and 2. Okay, we've got the class declaration section, which is here on line 4. And then inside this section here, from lines 5 down to 14, that's the actual class contents. So we've got the class declaration up here, the class ends down here on line 15. So everything between there is part of the class. It's the class content. Anything inside these curly brackets. Okay, so the using section. Basically, this section of code, it lists the libraries that the script will be using. So there's a range of libraries that you can use in Unity, and it's usually left as is and not modified, but sometimes you'll need to use extra libraries, and so you might add some extra lines there of different libraries that you're using that are required for your game. Okay, the class declaration section. So all scripts contain a class, and the class is named after the actual script. So if we go back to Unity, you can see I named this script my script without any spaces. So in mono develop, we have public class my script there. So it has to be exactly the same name. You can't change it to something else. It's got to be the same name there. Okay. So if the script file is called charactermove.cs, that's the actual file name, then the class will be called charactermoves. Okay, as an example, and they shouldn't contain any spaces. So the first line here doesn't really get changed much. So this should really be left alone until you're getting into some more advanced scripting. And all of the code between this curly bracket and this curly bracket here, that is all part of this class. So if you click on these brackets, it actually shows you, highlights in pink or orange, where the actual closing bracket is. So if you click up here at this bracket here, you can see the closing one is down here. So that's the whole entire class there, all of that section. Okay. So all of your code is going to be between these opening and closing brackets. Okay. So the class contents, well, that's the actual code that belongs to your script. So the code placed in between the opening and closing brackets of this class is what actually makes up the script. So all of your code goes here. By default, a script will have two methods inside the class. So a method is basically a function. Okay, it's going to contain code that tells things what to do. So each method will usually have one purpose, but by default, a script will have two methods inside the class, and these are the start method and the update method. Okay, any code that is placed inside the start method will run when the scene that this script is attached to first starts. So any code that's placed inside this start method will run when the scene begins, when it first starts. So every script is attached to some sort of object in a scene in a game. So the start method will run when the scene first starts. Any code that's placed inside the update method here will run every single time the game updates, which is usually about 60 times a second, but it will depend on what the computer's capable of. So the update method runs every single frame of the game. So every time the game updates. All right, so we've got the start method used for initialization and the update method, which is called once per frame. Okay, these methods start with the keyword void, and then we've got these brackets here, which we'll be looking at in another tutorial, what the purpose of brackets are next to methods. But it's important to note these lines here, line 6 and line 11, those are comments. So any line that starts with 2/ characters, that's a comment, and it just is used to document your code. So maybe to explain what this part of the code actually does, what the function is of this section of code. So just comments there, which are helpful for you if you go back to your code to understand what's going on in your code. And for others that might be looking at your code to understand what the purpose of the code is. So just use 2/ characters to add comments to your code. Any text on a line after those 2/ won't be treated as code, but it's just treated as a comment. Okay, so you can also see that it's grayed out there as well. Okay, so now we're going to look at how to actually attach a script to an object in a scene in our Unity game. So keep in mind here that we've got two methods. We've got the start method, which runs once at the beginning of the game when it starts, or when this script starts running, and we've got the update method here, which runs once per frame. So what we're going to do is we're just going to print or display a simple message in the console in Unity. Firstly, we'll do it with the start method so that it will just run that line of code once, and then we'll do it in the update method so that it runs at every single frame. Okay, so we'll code that now, and then what we'll do is we'll have a look at how to actually attach this script to an object in Unity. So in the start method here, so this method here, we're going to add a line of code, and it's basically print, and in brackets and quotation marks, hello world, okay? Which is pretty much the first line of code anyone writes when they're learning a new language. So we're just basically displaying a simple message here, a string message, so just a text message here. We'll close the brackets and then add a semicolon at the end of the line. So basically what we've got here is we're using the print statement, and we're using it to display this message, hello world, okay? So it's only going to show hello world without the quotation marks or the bracket, okay? So in MonoDevelop, you also see that it sort of color codes different sections of your code, which is quite helpful. But just remember that each line of code, each statement in C# ends with a semicolon. So when you write out a statement, end that statement with a semicolon. Okay. In the next tutorial, we'll be looking at exactly what a string is, but basically this message here, hello world, is using the string data type. Okay, so we can save that, just Command S or Control S if you're using Windows, and we can go back into Unity, and we have my script sitting right there in our scripts folder. And what we can do is we can actually attach it to an object in Unity. Now, if you're using a script to control an object, so for example, you might have a ball moving around in a scene and you want a script to control the movement of that ball, then you would usually attach the script to the actual ball object, so maybe a sphere that's in your scene. Okay, same with when you're controlling a character. If you have a script that's controlling a character, then you might attach that script to the actual character object in your game, which would be here in the hierarchy. But we don't really have any characters or any other objects in the scene at the moment, but we can attach this script, because all it's going to do is display a message in the console. We can attach it to pretty much anything here. So we'll just attach it to the main camera. So click and drag my script onto the main camera until it's highlighted, let go. And now if we click on the main camera in the hierarchy, you'll see down the bottom here in the inspector, it's added the script there. So it's got my script, and then we've also got my script there. Okay, that's the actual script that it's using. So you can change the script that it's using from here, but it's using that script there. Now, if we click on play to run this game scene, and now it's using that script, you can see down the bottom here, it's displaying the message hello world. If we go to the console, it's also printed here hello world in the console. It's only printed it once, or displayed it once. Okay, so if we stop that scene, we go back and look at the code in MonoDevelop, we've put this code in the start method. So remember that the start method only runs that code once. If we copy this code, we'll actually cut the code from that start method and paste it into the update method and save it. Now what this should do is it should run this line of code every single frame in the game. So if we go back to, and we don't need to reattach the script to the main camera because it's already there and it's just updated now that we've saved it in MonoDevelop. But if we click on play, again we have hello world displayed down the bottom. But if we go to the console, it's actually displaying this message once every frame. So if we scroll up and down, you can see it's displayed it many times, and it still is printing it out. and you can see here the count as well of how many items are in the console. So far, it's displayed that message 790 times, growing pretty quickly. So it's displaying that message once every single frame. Okay, let's stop that game. We'll just clear the console to get rid of those messages. But that's basically the difference between the start method and the update method. Start runs the code once at the beginning of the game, and update runs that code every single frame. Okay, which can be up to 60 times a second. All right, and that's basically a print statement. So how to display a message to the console, which it is actually seen in the game anywhere, but it is displayed down here in the console. So that print statement can be useful for testing, just to display values of different variables, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's basically how to attach a script to an object in your game. Okay, so in the next tutorial, we'll look at how to create variables in C#, and we'll look at the different data types available in C#. And then from there, we'll move on to being able to control objects, so attaching scripts to an object so that we can have code that will move an object around or rotate an object or scale an object. And then we'll go even further looking at input, so allowing players to control objects by using keys on the keyboard or the mouse. All right, so that's what we'll be looking at in the next few tutorials. Thanks for watching.